Hi everybody, it's Sarah the Attic Stitcher. Today is January 31st, 2026, and this is Flosstube 14. I just want to take a moment to welcome everybody, whether you're a returning viewer or new. Thanks for coming and spending some time with me. It has been a month, both in the sense that it's been a month since I last recorded, and it's been a month as in there's been a lot happening. If you live in the US or if you've been keeping up with current events in the United States, there's been a lot happening, and it's a lot of heavy things, a lot of emotional things, a lot of horrible things, to be honest. And my heart is especially with the people in Minneapolis as they struggle with what has been happening in their city, but I know that there's similar things happening all over the nations, and there's a lot of people living afraid and scared right now. And I just want to take a moment to be like, I see you, I'm with you, and you know, you've got allies. And I know Flosstube is probably many of our ways to kind of take a moment for ourselves, to kind of check out from what's happening in the world for a brief period of time and kind of recharge our hearts to re-enter into the world with by spending some time with beautiful art. So again, I'm very grateful that you're choosing to spend some of that time with me as I share my progress over the month of January. So we're gonna get into it. Today I have 9 different whips to share with you, works in progress that I've touched over the month of January. I have some haul to also share, and of course I'll have plans at the end. This month I got a lot of stitching done, and it was pretty exciting. And I don't know if it was just the new year motivation, the new setup for a stitchy journal that I started, or it being my birthday month. Today is actually my birthday, but I have very much enjoyed my stitching time this month. This is actually much later in the evening than I usually record, so I'm hoping the lighting won't be too bad to show off everything. I won't have time tomorrow to record and post because I usually try to record and post the same day. Today ended up having some extra things thrown into it than I was originally planning for, which is fine. It just means that I'm now recording with the sun down rather than the sun being up. So let's get into it. As I said, I have 9 whips to share with you, and I have a new journal tracker thing that I set up. It's just, I know there's a lot of stitchers who enjoy using things like the Book of Days to keep track of their stitching over the course of the month, which if you enjoy that and that's beneficial for you, that's great. I personally don't find benefit in having a physical journal, especially because I'm like, if I'm not going to use every single aspect of a journal, I don't want to spend the money on that. And I also can't guarantee that it's going to feel worth it to me to spend the money on a journal if there's going to be months in the future where maybe I don't stitch as much or whatever. Like last year, I had a few months where I didn't hardly stitch because of just everything going on in my life. So anyway, that's neither here or there. What I ended up doing is just starting a Google Doc, and I have a tab for keeping track of all my whips and all their details, like what I'm stitching it on, if I'm making any changes, when I started it. I have a tab to move them over when I finish them, so I can keep track of that information and when I finished it, and also link to the post on my Insta whenever I finish a project. And then the actual journal part, which is just literally, I put the month at the top as a header and then did 3 columns. So every day that I sat down to stitch, I just put the day, like January 1st, and then whatever I stitched on. So because I am getting into this new format of doing once a month and doing it as like a wrap up, so February 1st is my January wrap up. I did touch on a couple of these things in my last Flosstube because I had recorded on like the 3rd of January. So I'm gonna kind of touch over some things. So if you've seen my last Flosstube, you might be like, oh, I recognize that because I showed it last time. But if you've not seen my last Flosstube, then that's fine, right? So anyways, I feel like I have a lot to show you today, so we're gonna dive into it. I'm hoping that this won't be terribly long. Like I said, I have, according to my tracker, 11 projects currently going, and I have 9 projects to show you. So let's get into it. I'm going to take a drink first, though. My throat is very parched. So we're going to get into my whips, and then I'll go through some haul that I got, some both some haul that I got myself, and then some, I don't know, goodies, birthday goodies that I got. So we'll get into that, and then of course plans for February. So let me pull up my journal tab here. Just some fun stats that I've been able to track because of my journal here. I don't use a cross-stitch program. I don't use one of those because I just use my notes app. I don't want to spend money on a program. So I don't like keep track of stitches or percentages in that regards. But as I said, I have stitched on 9 projects in the month of January. I finished one, which is one that I showed in my last Flosstube, but because I'm doing a January wrap up, you'll get to see it again today. I started 2 new projects this month, and I spent a total of 24 out of 31 days stitching. Even if it was just one thread that I stitched into a project, I stitched on 24 different days. And then my most stitched project was Ophelia from Nora Corbett, and my least stitched project, where I only put like one thread in it, was Butterfly Fairy. And then I've got, like, as I show each project, I'll share how many days I spent stitching on it. So because I have my finish that I showed last time, but we're gonna go ahead and show it again, I have one finish, and that is the Advent Sal from Artmishka. This is Anna Gutova. This is, let's see here, finishes. So exciting. Oh, I don't have it listed on here. I need to update that and get this listed. I did DMC 321, which is just a red DMC. This is a mystery linen. I think it's a 36 count. So I stitched it awkwardly. I had my Q-snap set up to where I should have stitched it this way and been more centered here. But I was holding my Q-snap the wrong way and ended up stitching it like that. So, but I stitched it according to how Anna Gutova had charted it, other than I added the 2025 there at the bottom of the bell. And I've not finished it yet. I've not ironed it, as you can see. It's just kind of been sitting. But that is my one finish for the month of January. It was nice to start off the new year with a cross-stitch finish. And so now we'll get into my whips. I'm just going to go through. I had not stacked these in any particular order, so it's just a kind of free-for-all. My first project that I stitched on this month of January was Yue. I spent 4 days stitching on her. So Yue, I've got my computer up with my little journal. Princess Yue, this is a Make It Pink design. I started this November 26, 2025 on a 30 count Jakobstad linen from JacksonFabricArts. It's this beautiful, like very dark teal green blue fabric. Very, very beautiful. I'm using the called for threads and beads. This will end up being a gift for my housemate. She asked what she had to do to get me to stitch this for her. I told her if she buys all the supplies and does not bother me about getting it stitched in any kind of timeline, I will stitch it for her. So she's been true to her word and hasn't bothered me about my progress on it and all of that. So, but I have stitched 4 days on her this month, and here she is. So I have just been stitching on her hair. I was taking one single color, I think it was actually B5200. That's what I've been stitching with. And I just took it as far down as I could get it with my Q-snap where it was placed, and that's where I've gone. So all that is new, whoops, sorry guys, is pretty much this section here. That's all new. I did come down a little bit here as well, I believe. So, but I'll go down and finish as far as I can go with the B5200, and then I'll go back at the top and I'll pick whatever the next color in her hair is, and I'll stitch all of that in. That's kind of the rhythm that I've gotten. This has become my stitch during Critical Role. Me and my housemate, we stay up on Thursday evenings and watch Critical Role together. So it's kind of been the project that I work on while watching that with her. So that is project number 1. And now project number 2 is Winter Queen from Nora Corbett. This is what she will look like as a finished piece. Let's see if I can get it to focus in there for you all. So that will be the finished piece. So I stitched 2 days on Winter Queen. And let me pull up her details. So Winter Queen, I started her January 11th, 2024. So I'm 2 years into on her. I'm stitching her on a 28 count Gothic Lugana with all the called for threads and beads. This was my birthday start for the 2024 year. And here she is. Ooh, I've got to pull her back, because what I ended up doing on the 2 days that I spent on her was bringing the blue of her dress as far down as I could take it. So I've officially reached the bottom. So this will be, other than adding in a little bit of height up here with the beading for her crown, this will be her full length. So I'm pretty darn excited with how she's turning out. Filling in the folds of her dress has actually been a lot of fun. I was worried that it would get monotonous and boring, but that's not been the case. Seeing the detail come up and seeing these folds kind of come to life as I stitch them in by color has been a lot of fun. So, like I said, that's pretty much this down here. So here down is the new that I have stitched in over the course of the 2 days. So when I pick her up next, I'm going to just start kind of filling in this area down here and kind of get this swath stitched in, and then move on to the next swath of fabric for her. So, but yep, there she is. So pretty. So that was Winter Queen, Mirabilia, Nora Corbett, 28 count Gothic Lugana, which is a nice, pretty, stormy winter blue. And that's her. That's whip number 2 of 9. Next up, which is one that I just pulled out this past Thursday. Instead of stitching on UA this past Thursday for Critical Role, I stitched on this project. Hold on. I stitched on this project, which is my Pride and Prejudice Sampler. This is from X Stitch Pattern 88 on Etsy. I started this May 21st, 2023, so this coming May will make 3 years. I'm stitching her on a 32 count Antique White Lugana that I dyed with coffee to kind of give more of an antique look, and using all of the called for DMC. I'm stitching 1/1 petite stitch pretty much. So in a traditional, if you're doing like on the Winter Queen, I'm doing her skin 1/1. Let me pull her back over here to show. So on Winter Queen, I'm stitching her 2/2, except for the skin, I did 1/1. So you can kind of see here, her skin is a different texture than her hair here, because the hair is 2/2 threads, and the skin is 1/1 thread. So like for one stitch of 2/2, I made 4 small squares for the 1/1. But what I'm doing with the Pride and Prejudice pattern is 1/1, and it's just 1 square. I'm not stitching 4 squares per stitch on the pattern, if that makes sense. So this is where I'm at. I have 1 dangly thread, because once I get a little further over, finish up the page that I'm currently working on, I'm going to jump over, this will jump over for the grass on Longbourn. So, but what I stitched on is I put in the basket here that Jane is holding, and then I stitched the blue of Jane's dress and got her hair in. I was going to do her skin as well. I'm going to hopefully get that to focus for you all. I was going to stitch her skin in as well the other night, but I didn't have it in my stash, which makes me wonder if I've maybe kitted it up in one of my other projects, because I thought I had bought all of the threads for this pattern. But anyway, so yeah, I just, during that episode of Critical Role, stitched pretty much just this. The blue, the basket, the yellow hair. And I've got the urge to keep stitching on this, so you all will probably see her come out next month as well. I don't know, there's something about January, February that feels very Pride and Prejudice to me. So I feel like I'm gonna stitch on her some more. So next up we have, this is my second new start. Well, it's the first one I'm showing you today. Okay, this is my, which I actually showed in my last Flosstube as well, now that I think about it. This is Lunar Nap from Sprouting Lupine. I started on January 2nd, 2026 on a 28 count Gothic Lugana with the call for DMC. This is a gift for a friend who had to put her cat down just before Christmas this past year. When I saw Sprouting Lupine post this pattern, it made me think of her cat. It looked a lot like her cat. Her cat's name was Nova. This is a lunar themed, so it felt very appropriate. So I'm stitching this for my friend, and when it's finished, I'm going to frame it and then ship it out to her. I spent, let me see here, I spent how many days? I spent 9 days. This was my second most stitched on project for the month of January. Mainly because I'm kind of focusing on it because I don't want to keep a hold of this too long, because I want to get it stitched and completed and sent out to my friend as a gift. But here we are. So the cat is completely done. Now I have made some changes to the cat, and I'm actually thinking about going in and ripping out some stitches to change it up a little bit more to make it look more like my friend's cat. So like this paw leg, and stuff are actually supposed to be a different color, not the lighter white gray, but a different color, a darker shade. But her cat has a lot more, or had a lot more white, so I wanted to put some more white on it. I've just got a little bit up here in his top of his head that has to be stitched, and then a little bit here at the end of his tail that has to be stitched, and then all of the stitches are on the cat. So then I just have the moon and then the stars, and I plan to leave the stars out at the bottom and cross stitch in Nova's name instead. But that is my progress. He's turned out so cute, and I think even if you stitch this as it's called for, it will look so adorable. And like I said, I'm kind of thinking that I stitched in these stripes as white because that's how they were called, like some of these were called to be stitched in the white, and then because I wanted to have some more white on him to represent my friend's cat, I made the paws white and stuff. But I think I might be undoing a couple. I might be overthinking it too, that's quite possible, but I think I might be undoing some to redo just to kind of make it look a little bit more like my friend's cat. But I think it gets across that it's my friend's cat. And of course I'll have his name on there and the stars and the moon. So anyway, so that is that project. I think the finished size is going to be like 5 by 5, so it's not that big of a project. So I'm hoping next month I'll have that done. I was kind of hoping that I would get it done this month, but like I said, it was my second most stitched on project, and I spent 9 days of the month on her. If I had spent all of my time in January, I probably could have finished that project, but I like to jump around. So, but hopefully February we'll see that finished and sent out to my friend. So next up, we have Rapunzel. I stitched on for 4 days, and let me pull up her details here. Rapunzel, this is Rapunzel from Make It Pink Designs again. I started her January 3rd, 2025, so she's got a year's worth of progress on her. I'm stitching her on a 30 count Arizona Sunset linen from JacksonFabricArts. So this is the same dye shop as UA, and it is a very pretty kind of dusky pink color. And then all the called for threads and beads. This was my birthday start for 2025. And here she is. Whoops. I just totally lose my grip on her. I was trying to see if I could. So this is Rapunzel. So I spent most of my time stitching this bodice here. I outlined all the way, and then I went and started filling in to outline around these spots where beads will be going. So then next time I pick her up, I think I also put in some of her skin on her neck here. Yeah, like here. Start putting in her skin, because again, I'm doing her skin 1/1. So her skin has a very different texture compared to like her hair and stuff. But this, I wanted to have this kind of outlined on her bodice because it's easy fill-in case I participate in any Zoom calls or anything like that where I want to stitch, but I don't want to be thinking very hard about what I'm doing. So that's just some nice fill-in for when I'm ready for it. And then I'm going to be focusing on getting her chest filled in as well with the 1/1 and continuing work on her dress. So she's coming along very nicely. I'm very excited for my progress on her. Tangled is my favorite Disney movie, pretty much my favorite movie of all time. I'm not sure what I think about them making it a live action. I'm not upset about who they've picked out, cast as Flynn, Eugene, and Rapunzel. Like, I think they fit. They're the actors that I think look right for the role. So I'm not angry about that. I'm just very hesitant about my favorite movie being adapted into a live action. and how they're going to go about doing that. But anyway, that is Rapunzel from Make It Pink Designs. The next one that I have worked on is Cats in Hats. I spent one day stitching on this, and I spent pretty much an entire day. It was like a Saturday, and I just stitched the entire day. Excuse me, brother, there is plenty of spots for you to go and lay down. You don't have to take it from your sister. Hold on, I'm gonna pause because I might have to disrupt my cats. Okay, crisis averted. Oh, sorry, I'm shaking you all. Okay, so Cats and Floral Hats is my next project. I spent an entire day, it was like an entire Saturday working on her. So I'm not finished. I keep saying this is the month, or this is by the time I record next, I'm gonna have this one finished. No, not finished, but I did finish all of the cat's face. So now I just have the flowers and the hat brim left to stitch. So here's where I'm at. So this is one I've already done. So this cat here at the end is the one I've been working on, and I got all of the cat's face. So all of the lovely orange cat has been stitched. I just have to do the back stitch, but I'll save that after I finish the rest of it. So there's just some of the green hat brim and then some purple flowers and yellow lily that will go in the hat. And once that's done, I'll back stitch, and then I'll add the little bead embellishments that I want to add, and then this one will be done. Doesn't it look wonderful? I am very excited to have this one done. I think last time I was talking about, I can't decide. I keep flip-flopping between, do I turn this into a pillow or do I frame it? How would you all do it? Like, if this was your cross-stitch finish, how would you finish it? Would you finish it as a frame? Would you finish it as a pillow? Would you finish it as something different? Because I keep flip-flopping. I don't know what I want to finish this as. But this was my very first cross-stitch that I ever started. I started this on January 19th, 2023. So 3 years working on this. It's a 14 count Ivory Aida, all the called for DMC, 2/1. I'm not stitching the border that's included in the pattern, and I'm adding some bead embellishments, but otherwise it's all stitched as called for. It's Cats and Floral Hats by Pam Kellogg. I think last time I was like getting confused with Teresa Winsler. Completely different designer. Pam Kellogg is the one who designed these. So, anyways, I need a good iron, but I'll wait till I finish to iron, because I'll give this one a good wash and an iron and stuff, and then however I decide to finish it, because I don't know how I'm going to decide to finish it. But here's a close-up of the cat I've been working on. Like I said, I stitched all of his face. So now it's just the hat left. So we'll see how it goes this next month, how much progress I will make. I am not going to make any promises this time for, I'm going to finish this by the next time I record. I'm not going to do that anymore. We'll just see. When it happens, it happens. All right, the next project I stitched on is Butterfly Fairies. I stitched on this just one day and literally put one strand of thread in. So let me see here, but it's Butterfly Fairies from Lanarte. This is what it will look like. There's two designs that come in this, the night fairy and the day fairy. I'm working on the day fairy, or the sun fairy right now. I started this April 17th, 2025 on a 32 count white Belfast linen, all the called for DMC. I started this, and then I also used this as my piece last year for the Wings of Hope Sal that I hosted in May for Melanoma Awareness Month. And Wings of Hope Sal is just a stitch along to stitch on anything in your current stack, or starting something new if that's what you desire to stitch on, that has wings. So a fairy, an angel, a butterfly, a bug, a bird, anything that has wings. I do plan to host again this May Wings of Hope Sal, and I do plan to make this my focus piece that month. So if you want to look ahead to May and plan to join me with that, that would be a lot of fun. So, but I'll show you all where I'm at. Like I said, I put one strand into this. It was just I thought I was going to sit down and like stitch a while, and I was just exhausted, so I didn't. But here is my butterfly fairy. And I think I just put in like one of the colors here, bringing her hair down. So not a lot on her, but progress is progress, right? So that is Butterfly Fairies from Lanarte. And oh, we're down to my last whip. My last whip, which I spent 10 days working on her, is Ophelia by Nora Corbett. This is my birthday start for this year, so she's my second new start this month. I started working on Ophelia on January 3rd, 2026, and I'm stitching her on a 32 count Belfast moss Belfast linen with all the called for threads and beads. And this is what she will look like at the end when I finish stitching her. I have admired this Nora Corbett design pretty much ever since I first saw it, like 3 years ago. I'd been flip-flopping between starting her or starting Queen Titania from Nora Corbett for my birthday this year, and I ended up picking Ophelia instead of Queen Titania. So that's what she will look like, and here is where she's at. I have her on a scroll frame. This is the first time in a while that I've had a project that fits on a scroll frame. So I stitched this dark border outline, and once I had that stitched to kind of make sure that I wasn't totally off on my centering and stuff, I got her attached to my scroll frame. My plan is to stitch everything that I can here, do all the back stitching, do all the beading, cut off my little tension threads here, move her up, do the last part, everything, because it's so much easier to bead and then roll up when you're using the scroll frame. But we have some lily pads that I stitched in, and then also over here, this blue color is a silk. It's a Karen water lily silk. It's my first time stitching with a silk. It's got a really nice feeling to it. There's not a very strong variegation. There's some minor green, like I don't know if you all can even tell this on the camera, but like in this corner there's some like a greener, and it goes into this blue color and stuff. What I find interesting is these lily pads, so I need to add, the silk is supposed to go around the edge of this one lily pad, but that's it. And then all the other lily pads that kind of break up the frame here and here, all of these other lily pads get outlined in the blue silk, and this is the only one that gets outlined in this like gold color, which just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm tempted to rip out the gold and outline in the blue, just to kind of tie it in. But I'm gonna stitch it as it's called for first, and then I'll go in and decide if I want to rip out and then add in the blue silk in that corner instead. And then what I've been working on the last couple of days is this area here. I was able, once I got these lily pads stitched, I was able to come over, get this vine, and then come over and start working on her hair, which has been really fun seeing her hair come together in that way. So this is the most new that I've put in on her. So, but I'm very excited for how she's looking. I'll keep working my way over, and then I'll work my way down and all of that. So Ooh, excuse me. But that is Ophelia. So I spent 10 days putting some amount of stitching in her. And that is all of my whips. So next up, haul. So I have a birthday gift and just something that I bought. And so we'll just start with my birthday gift. My mom got me these. They're little needle minders. And they're black cats. This one says whatever. This one says treat yourself. And they have drinks. This one's drinking a little coconut drink. This one's got a little glass of wine. And they're actually pretty. The magnets, I've not used them yet, but the magnets feel pretty sturdy and stuff. And they're strong enough that they've even attached to my little scissors that I use. So I don't know where she got them or whatever, but that is what my mom got me. My big birthday present from my mom is we're going to the symphony in March. She bought tickets for me to go to the symphony in March with her. So that's the big present, but she wanted me to have a little something yesterday when we did our family birthday celebration. So that was from my mom. And then I have some haul. I was browsing Facebook Marketplace and somebody had posted some patterns for sale for a really great price. It was 4 patterns for $15, which honestly is great because nowadays your average pattern is like $15. So, and only one of the patterns I was not interested in. The other 3 I was like, yeah, I'm interested in those. So I'm gonna show the one that I'm the least interested in. I'm probably never going to stitch. I may give it away at some point. And that's this Coca-Cola Santa Claus. It's the Santa Series #1 When Friends Drop In. And it's a pattern from 1994. But of course it's Santa, he's holding his Coca-Cola, there's a little doggy here. Oh, it's a cute pattern, but it's just not my style. Excuse me, my style and stuff, so I'm probably not going to spend time stitching this, but I may give it away at some point, or I may change my mind and decide, yeah, I want to stitch this. So that was the first pattern that this lady had in this little set. Next up, she had 2 lavender and lace patterns. And I've been eyeing lavender and lace patterns for a while. I've been interested in getting some to start at some point. And so when I saw these were 2 that I'd been looking at. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And that was lavender and lace Angel of Spring. So this is what it looks like. I can't remember if this is the one that Samantha the Huga Stitcher is working on. I think it might be. And I think Erica, Fibers and Floss Canada, I think this is the one she also worked on. I can't remember though, I could be wrong. But this is the Angel of Spring. This is from 1993. There's something about this angel pattern that makes me think of my mom. So there's a good chance that whenever I do stitch this one, will you refocus on it? But anyways, there's a good chance when I do stitch on this one that when I finish it, I might be giving it to my mom. I don't know. But there's that one. I think she's just pretty. And like I said, there's just something about that that just makes me think of my mom. When I was younger, my mom collected angels and stuff. And there's just something, the way that this particular angel looks reminds me of my mom. So the second lavender and lace was Angel of Hope. This is one that I actually had on my wish list before I saw this person had it in her little stash that she'd put up for sale. So I knew I needed this one. I think once I finish one of my fancy ladies, whether it's Winter Queen, whether it's Rapunzel or UA, like whichever, once I finish one of those, I'm gonna start this one. there's something about the length of her that I really like. I'm used to like more rounded square designs of these like angels and fancy ladies and stuff, but this one just feels long and tall and graceful, and I love the ruffles along the bottom of her dress. So this is Angel of Hope from Lavender and Lace. So that will likely be my next start after I finish one of my bigger fancy ladies. And the last pattern from that little stash that I got off of Marketplace is Teresa Winsler. This is English Garden Sampler. Now the lady I bought them from, she'd stitched the Santa, she stitched the 2 Lavender and Lace, but she not stitched this one. She wanted to because it was a peacock, but she's got to a point in her life where she can't handle cross stitching, so that's why she was destashing these things. This one is really pretty. Now I plan my first Teresa Winsler, which I didn't get started this month for reasons. I'll go over that in plans. I didn't get Trade Winds started, and I'm not going to have 2 Teresa Winslers going at once. But when I finish Trade Winds, as long as I'm not totally turned off from Teresa Winsler after Trade Winds, I'll probably start on this one. The border on this one, let's see if it will focus. The border on this is so pretty, and there's like special like thread stitches, a little like, I think this is like a type of hardinger where they do the threads of the actual linen that you stitch on in a certain way. I think it's really cool and pretty. So that's Teresa Winsler English Garden Sampler. This is another 1993 pattern. So, but that's my little haul from this past month. I actually ordered something else on another Facebook destash group, but it's not come in yet, so that'll be for February. I think this is the most that I've ever gotten at one time. I'm very much a person who, when I get my patterns, I'm kitting them up because I'm planning to start them. I don't just get patterns to hold on to and not stitch. So this is like, but I know that they're ones that I'm going to want to stitch. So that's why I was like, it's okay for me to go ahead and buy them, because it's a great price to be able to get them and all of that. So that's my little haul there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my cross stitch plans for February, and then I just have a little bit of like fun things, like some other birthday presents that I wanted to show, and a book that I finished this month that I wanted to share. So if you're not interested in those things, you don't have to stick around after my plans, but I wanted to include those in this video. So as for plans for February, it's just to kind of keep stitching on whatever I'm feeling like. Definitely my goal is to get Lunar Nap completed, so that way I can send it off to my friend. If I don't ship it off before I record for March 1st video, for my February wrap-up video, I'll show it in that. If I end up having it ready and to ship out before I record my February wrap-up, I will probably record a little snippet to add into that to share that finish if I get it finished in time. Otherwise, like I said, it's whatever I feel like stitching on is what I'm going to stitch on. Definitely know that the Pride and Prejudice is probably going to be picked up a few more times in February. Just something about February screams Pride and Prejudice to me. Ophelia is probably going to get some more stitching in her. UA is going to get more stitching because I'll work on her during Critical Role. My goal is to start Trade Winds from Teresa Winsler. I was planning to start Trade Winds this month, but as I was getting the threads ready, getting the kit ready to go, getting the threads sorted and all of that, I realized that the fabric that came, hello brother, the fabric that came in the kit, because it was a kit that I bought from eBay, You cannot go up there. Say hi to the peoples. He's like, no. The fabric that came in the kit, in the middle of it is a tear. And so it's not going to work. So I'm going to have to order a new fabric. So now I'm going through decision paralysis on ordering a new fabric. It's going to be just a simple cream colored. A lot of people say go with Lugana for Teresa because her patterns are so complicated. Having the evenness of an even weave like Lugana is the best thing to do with her. So I really enjoy stitching on linen, so I'm trying to decide, do I do what's recommended and get a Lugana even weave, or do I go with what I enjoy stitching on, which is linen. So once I do that decision, I'm going to order fabric and then hopefully get trade winds started. That will be my new memorial stitch for my dad, who passed away in 2024. He was a Navy man, so he loved ships, and this pattern makes me think of him. But I can't stitch on it until I have fabric, so I'm gonna have to get that ordered. Probably in the next week I'll buckle down and order the fabric to get that in and get a start going on that. So yeah, stitching on whatever I enjoy stitching on and starting trade winds. That's my plan for February. So if you don't want to stick around and see the little, just like a few little things, knickknacks and stuff that I want to show off, you don't have to stay. I hope you enjoyed spending time with me. I hope you enjoy your stitchy time. Remember to take care of yourself, take care of the people around you. Treat everyone you meet with love, respect, and dignity, and we'll get through even the darkest of times together. Kitten, there is no one there. Why are you growling? I don't even know if you all could have heard that, but she just gave like the deepest growl, and there is nobody over there to bother her. So with that, let's go. So I don't know if any of you are like me, but having a hobby where you look at your fingers so much with your stitching, it brings me a lot of joy to have my nails painted. So I actually just changed my nails today because my best friend sent me a birthday gift, and it was a new nail polish. This is a hollow taco. I don't know how well it's going to show up in this lighting. It's a pretty pink holographic nail polish. And there it is on my nails. And the name of this is toe beans. So like cat's paw pads. I don't know if you all might know that a lot of us refer to them as toe beans. Their little toe paw pads are toe beans. So that's what I've got on my nails. And so that was one of my birthday presents this year. This is my golden birthday. I'm 31 on the 31st. So anyway, so that was one of my birthday presents. And then one of my brother and sister-in-laws gave me a puzzle. I love working on puzzles. This is A Day in Venice, and it's really, really pretty. So I'm excited. It's a 1,500 piece, so it's a nice big puzzle. I love big puzzles. 1,000 pieces are my jam. I'm currently working on one that's a bunch of candy. I'll see if I can't put up a picture of where I'm at on it. This one, one of my family friends gave it to me, and she called it the puzzle from hell because it is so complicated. Like the puzzle pieces are all weird, funky shapes. Some of them only have like 3 sides. Some of them have a flat edge, but they're not an edge piece. And it's just, it's very busy. So it is a very complicated puzzle, but I've made some pretty good progress working on it. Hopefully I'll get it done in the next week or so that way I can get started on this one because this one's so pretty. I visited Italy and I visited Venice in 2016. So that just brings me a lot of joy to see some things that I recognize. you know, from St. Mark's Square in Venice and stuff. So anyway, this will be my next puzzle that I start. And then the last thing that I have to share is a book that I read, and I'm just gonna hide the name of my library because privacy. It's I Don't Want to Kill You by Dan Wells. This is the third book in his John Cleaver series. This is horror, thriller, mystery, paranormal. Yeah. So I think it's actually my favorite one. It's the third, and the ending hooked me. So there was like a little novella, like a 40-page book that is supposed to like connect the first 3 books to the next 3 books. So I got that from Kindle Unlimited and read it. And so now when I go to return this to my library, I'm going to pick up book 4 so I can read book 4. They're very cool. This one definitely, I think, hit up on the mystery aspect more for me. Ugh. Hold on. Brother is causing chaos, so brother is going to join for the book chat. This one very much lended more to a mystery feeling for me. I felt like compared to the first 2 books, I spent more of my time trying to figure out the mystery part of it and stuff. So I was very like actively engaged in the story, which was pretty cool. I don't usually get that with my cats are being chaotic. I don't usually get that when it comes to books, and so I found that very enjoyable. It is dark, it is kind of gruesome, it is a horror. It definitely falls into horror genre. It's definitely not the most intense horror. I have read some other, like Grady Hendrix. I think he's not quite on par with Grady Hendrix when it comes to the... Hold on. All right, we'll see if I can finish this before the cats get on one again. Dan Wells with this story is not quite on par with the like gore horror aspect as I've seen in the Grady Hendrix books that I have read. So if you're not big on gore or horror, that's really hard to say. I think this would be a good fit. It definitely is. It's got some morbid spots. His family owns a mortuary, so there's descriptions of dead bodies and the embalming process and stuff. So if that kind of gets to you, you just be warned. I'm actually kind of amazed. I read the first book before my dad died, and then I read the second one last year, and then I read this one this year, and I actually had a lot more trouble with the funeral home mortuary scenes with the last 2 books than I did with the first one. And I think that was a lot to do with just going through the death of my father and the experience of planning a funeral and stuff, that you just interact with that kind of stuff differently. But it definitely wasn't to a point where I was turned off by it to a degree where I wouldn't continue the series. Like I said, I am planning to continue the series. I think if I was to rate it, I would rate it like a 3.5, 3.75, something like that. It's not like a 4. I don't think it's spectacular, amazing. It's also not like an absolute favorite, but it's good. It's compelling enough for me to continue on and commit to the series. So that's why I would say it's more than just a 3, but not quite a 4, because I don't think it's highly elevated. But anyways, so that's what I read this month, and hopefully next month I'll do some more reading and share it with you all in my wrap-up. So if you made it here to the end, thanks for joining me. If you have any book recommendations, let me know below. I'm always looking for another good book. I love fantasy, and brother is on one, and he's now going for kitten. I love fantasy. I love romance. I like clean romance, closed door romance. I don't want to read it actually happening. I prefer that not to be in it. Something along the lines of like Spell Shop or the Magic Greenhouse or whatever it's called. The Enchanted Greenhouse from Sarah Beth Durst, I think. That's kind of the genre of romance that I enjoy. I like cheesy Hallmark romance. Let's go with that. So, but yeah, sci-fi, fantasy. Brandon Sanderson's a favorite author, and all of that. So if you have any book recs, let me know below, and I will chat at y'all in a month when I come back for my February wrap-up. So thanks for spending some time with me, you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful time with all of your stitching, and no matter what happens in the coming month, again, let's just keep moving forward with love, respect, and dignity with all those that we meet and encounter, and stand with each other, and we'll make it through. So I will see you all in 1 month for my February wrap-up. Bye, everybody.